before I get into who I am and what I am, we're going to do an experiment. And this is a fairly important experiment. I want you all to get your mobile phone out of your pocket, if it's not already out. I want you to unlock your mobile phone. It's all unlocked. I want you to hand your phone to the person to your left. Go on, don't be scared. Take somebody else's phone. Make sure you have somebody else's unlocked phone in your hand. Who does not have somebody else's phone in their hand? Pretty good. Okay. Here's the experiment. This is the important bit. You have 60 seconds to snoop through that person's phone. And I'm serious. Okay. Stop. Don't do it. There was laughter is the reaction that I was looking for. It's nervous laughter that most of you gave me. How did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
How did that make you feel?
Yeah,
pretty uncomfortable. How did that make you feel?
I was looking forward to it. I was about to go.
Yeah? You were looking for the stuff folder, weren't you? The reaction that you just got, psychologically, the reaction you just got was not nervousness about looking through somebody else's phone. The reaction that you just had was nervousness about somebody else looking through your phone. And the mental model of digital has completely changed, probably in the last 10 years, beyond anything that we could have predicted, right? So our connection to our technology and our interfaces is so personal now that you get that reaction with this thought that somebody else has your device. And that's one of the reasons that we set Nexus up. So Nexus is a design company that we set up about 18 months ago to look at the neurological, psychological, and biological effects of digital. And we're working with some really fascinating big brands at the moment looking at the effects that their digital is having on the customers at the end of the experience. And we're helping them plan their digital experiences in a slightly different way with slightly different things in mind. My career is from helicopters to designing. I'm a black dog. 10 years ago I had a nervous breakdown. The nervous breakdown that I had was a result of bipolar. And when I had my breakdown, what happened was it made me evaluate myself in a way that I'd never had to evaluate myself for. Because I'm a designer, I only had one option, and that was to design the solution to fix my health problems. You don't fix a problem like that, but you design a way out of it. And that's really the journey that got me here today. I'm a curious father, and as a curious father, one of the things that really fascinates me is looking at my children playing in digital and on interfaces and wondering what the fuck we're doing to them, because I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old and they are way smarter than me at digital already. This is nuts. And so the other thing that's driven me is this idea that we are designing things that our children will be using and we have no idea what we've been doing to them. And I'm not a neuroscientist. And the neuroscientist community out there hate me. And last year at a talk in Texas, a bunch of neuroscientists picketed my talk, which was amazing. I was so happy. If you have an effect on the science community, it means you're irritating them, and if you're irritating them, it means you're doing something right, because they're academics, and academics don't like to do stuff, they like to talk about stuff. My career really started before my breakdown in advertising. We were doing a huge amount of really fascinating things with some big brands, and I was working with some really, really big brands, including one big vodka brand. This vodka brand was encouraging us to do something called ZMET. ZMET is the Siteman metaphor elicitation technique. The Siteman metaphor elicitation technique is basically a neuromarketing technique whereby you hide images in posters and things. So the brand in question was a vodka brand. And I don't know if you remember the Smirnoff adverts. I've just said it, I'm not supposed to use their name, never mind. We're only small, aren't we? Edit that out. The posters that we designed were these. It was the Smirnoff bottle, and behind the Smirnoff bottle were kind of abstract art pictures, right? Does anybody remember the adverts? They were beautiful, they were absolutely stunning. Now what we were doing was we were making people lean into the picture to look at the artwork behind the bottle. What you were actually doing was absorbing the shape of the bottle, and then when you went into Tesco's, you were gravitating towards the shape of the bottle and not the actual brand itself. So ZMET was kind of interesting, and it got me thinking about the effects that we have in marketing and digital on the brain. That's really where it all started. And so, you know, things progress. I go into digital, and it started to occur to me, probably 5 or 6 years ago, that not only are we having an effect on our brain, we're having an effect on lots of other things as well. So I started doing all this research, and this was part of my breakdown. It was kind of, what's going on in my head? Why am I losing my memory? Why am I not concentrating? What is going on? And I started to discover some really fascinating things. One of the things I discovered was that digital experiences elicit hormones. That's what happens when you use certain apps and services, right? Your body releases hormones. And when we design stuff, you don't really think about that. What you're doing is you're thinking about usability and design and user experience and interface design and advertising. You're not actually thinking about the biological effect that you're having on people. And so this really got me thinking about what that does. Now, if you think about hormones, right, something like testosterone has an effect on the brain that encourages risk. That's what testosterone does as a hormone. So if testosterone is being released during digital experiences, you're actually encouraging risk. Adrenaline is another really fascinating one. And so we did a little experiment. About 18 months ago, we did a little experiment on a little app that 1 in 5 of you have got in your pocket called Tinder. Who's got Tinder? Nobody's going to admit it. One guy. Good work. Tinder was a really fascinating one. What we did is, just want to make sure. Yeah, what we did is we created Tinder Bot. Tinder Bot was a little AI that went into Tinder and started interviewing people. And we were really fascinated about the biological effects and the neurological effects and the psychological effects of people using Tinder. And I'm going to go through some of those results really quickly. And then I'm going to get onto how I think you should all be designing things in a more considered way. Tinder Bot is probably still out there in Tinder somewhere. And I imagine you, the only man in the room that admitted to using Tinder, 1 in 5 people on Tinder is probably a bot like mine. And Tinder Bot was really encouraging people to answer questions about what they were doing and how they were feeling during the pursuit of Tinder. So we managed to speak to about 86 people on Tinder, 38 female, 26 male. A couple of people don't have genders on Tinder, which was kind of bizarre, and I imagine they're the bots. Age range is pretty obvious, right? So this is what happens when you use Tinder. You pull Tinder out your pocket, 2 things start to happen almost instantaneously. Testosterone and adrenaline start to course through your body. Men obviously have more testosterone than females, but females still release certain amounts of testosterone. Testosterone and adrenaline have changed the way that you think. They've encouraged your appetite for risk, and you start to behave differently than you would in real life. Do you act like yourself when you use the service like Tinder? Not really. 49 people, not really. That's hormones, that is. And this is kind of weird, and it gets weirder. The other thing that happens when testosterone and adrenaline is released in your body is you have something called androgenic priming. Androgenic priming is something that happens, it makes your reactions quicker. We see it in sports people. When people are on winning streaks, the testosterone and adrenaline course harder, and it makes you win more because you get better at it, right? And that's why someone like Andy Murray, when he's winning really well, he is winning really, really well. Now, the opposite effect to androgenic priming is when you stop winning, when people start swiping the other way and saying no, you crash. And you crash really badly. So that's why a sports person like Andy Murray goes for a winning streak and then a really bad patch. And we've started to do this with things like Tinder on a kind of micro scale, on a macro scale. So we're encouraging huge highs and huge lows. Do people behave differently towards you than they would in real life? And bizarrely, most of the time, yes. Like 28 people out of the group that we managed to get to answer the question all agreed that people were behaving differently than they would in real life. So there's also a kind of acknowledgement that you know that people are not behaving like you would expect them to at a bar and a pub, but that's somehow all right. And that's the stuff that's going on inside your body during that experience. I know this is a really contrived one, but we had to ask it. I have an alter ego that takes over in these services, like a secret online me. Absolutely, yes. 56 people said that they had this kind of alter ego that they could not work out why it was there, it just was. There's another really fascinating effect of apps and services like Tinder. In the 70s, there was a behavioral psychologist called Walter Mischel. Walter Mischel is really kind of one of the godfathers of behavioral science now. Walter Mischel conducted a psychology study in Stanford with a nursery group called the Marshmallow test, the Stanford Marshmallow test. He had a small table in the middle of the room. He brought 5-year-olds in, he sat them in front of the table, and in the middle of the table was a marshmallow. And he said to them, you have 15 minutes to stare at that marshmallow. And I'm pretty sure that kind of test would be illegal now, but you know, you stare at the marshmallow. and if you don't eat it after 15 minutes, we'll give you another one, we'll give you a second one, right? And then what he did is he went back and he studied those kids 15, 20 years later. Now the ones that delayed gratification, the ones that waited 15 minutes, had higher SAT scores across the board, higher SAT scores, higher career success, higher grades at school, were socially more popular. They were really successful in every way possible. Their brains, their frontal cortex was much more developed than the kids that had not delayed gratification and just dived in for the marshmallow. Now what we've been doing with the push and the pull on the mobile phone is creating a version of the Stanford marshmallow test. And we've all got it in our pockets now. We're not kids looking at marshmallows. Do you ever find yourself checking Tinder before you get a notification? 16 people said they did. Now, the psychologist in me takes the 39 that did not answer and considers them to be guilty. So people that, so psychologically speaking, people that don't answer a question are probably not answering because they're guilty. So that number and that number is pretty big. And again, this is a pretty telling sign for me of how people are starting to react to digital. You're checking it before you get the push notification. This is Marshmallow on a grand scale. The other thing that happens during experiences like Tinder is 15 minutes, when 15 minutes goes away, another hormone takes over. So testosterone and adrenaline have a really short half-life. 15 minutes into an experience, third hormone takes over, and this one is cortisol. Now cortisol was really nature's way of giving you a retreat from something really dangerous. So cortisol is there to get you through a long siege. Cortisol has one far-reaching command, glucose now, and it starts to dismantle your body. The dismantlement of the glucose in your body makes you really unhappy. It gives you a bit of a low and a crash. And what we found out was that people, the biggest number that we could find using these services like Tinder, 23 out of the group were on it for like 30 to 40 minutes. They're running on cortisol, right? So when we contacted Tinder and suggested they use their app as a dieting app, they were absolutely not impressed with that. They did not like that at all. But I think these are kind of scary. Now the good news is, 20, the second biggest number is 20 and they're fine. But these are pretty scary numbers when you think that those people who are sitting on their sofa just going flick, 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 are actually running on stress hormones, they're running on cortisol. So with all that stuff in mind, and with the fact that we had to design this framework to make me happier, what we've done is we've gone out and we've really studied the opposite effects to some of this stuff. What are the things that make us happy? And can we design services with happiness baked in? So we've created a framework. It's called Big Hippo. I'll tell you why it's called Big Hippo in a minute. And what we've discovered is, with some guys in Stanford actually, who were really kind and gave some time, in the neuroscience team in Stanford, is happiness is really your biological set point. That's the thing that we all have that's kind of unique to us that makes us happy, right? So that's the bit that you return to when your emotions kind of go up and down. Your up and your down is your biological set point. You can't change that. That's just ingrained in all of us. Your conditions of living account for like 10% of your happiness. So this is like, buying stuff. This is shopping. This is, where you live and things like that. It's only 10% of that we equate to the happiness factor. 40% of what makes you happy are voluntary actions and choices. This is the stuff that makes you better. This is the stuff that you do out of choice, the actions that you take that make you achieve stuff. Now this equation has an effect on the brain. The brain really comes in three big parts. There's the neocortex, which is the bit that deals with all your motor commands, walks you around, it makes you see, and it stops you falling over, all that good stuff. The reptilian part of the brain is the oldest part of the brain, deals with fight or flight. We've all got one of those, and it's all like in animals and everything. But the really good part of the brain, the really interesting part of the brain that we all have to be designing with in mind, is the limbic section. Now the limbic section, you can't see that very well, the man's head. The limbic section has a whole bunch of really fascinating parts. We won't go into all of that because we're not neuroscientists. But the limbic section has one really, really amazing bit called the hippocampus, right? So the hippocampus is what's the part of the brain. The hippo is the part of the brain that retains memory. That's what the hippo's for, right? The hippo's job is to retain memory. So it retains good experiences and bad experiences, and it helps you recall whether you were having a good time or a bad time. So when you go back to the equation, the bits in the equation are really the bits that are affecting the hippocampus. Ooh, hello. Now, non-linear and linear problem solving, linear and non-linear problem solving. Linear and non-linear problem solving grows and shrinks the hippocampus. So linear problem solving is really A, B, up, down, yes, no. They're simple problems to solve. They're the things that you can kind of just do, by flipping a coin, right? They're Tinder. So this is, you're swiping left and right on Tinder, you're doing a linear problem solving task. Non-linear problem solving is analytical stuff that is more creative, things that make you stop and think. Analytical stuff that grows the hippocampus, makes you happier. The intense repetition of those tasks grows stronger neural pathways in the brain associated to that task. So the more you do a non-linear task, you grow the brain in that direction, you make it stupider. The more that you do a non-linear task, it grows in the other direction. Now, a good example of this, before we get on to the fun part, the framework that we've built, bus drivers and taxi drivers. Biologically, bus drivers have a smaller hippocampus than taxi drivers because bus drivers solve linear problems every day. So they studied bus drivers and taxi drivers about 18 months ago. They scanned their brains. The hippocampus was smaller in these guys than these guys. Statistically, the bus drivers are all very unhappy compared to taxi drivers as well, because they're driving the same route every day. Their brain is getting smaller in the hippocampus. Taxi drivers, apart from late at night, are generally more jovial, right? That's just something that happens. I love taxi drivers and I love bus drivers. I have no problem with either, but the philosophy that we had for Nexus was we wanted to build a society full of taxi drivers. We want to design stuff that creates taxi drivers and not bus drivers, and we can do that. So we built this framework called Big Hippo. Big Hippo is something that we're embedding into our clients' work. It's a framework that's designed to grow the hippocampus. It's a non-linear framework, and we're just going to I'm going to share that with you really quickly now. So at the center of our framework is an old behavioral psychology model called SCARF. SCARF is something that you should all be considering when you're designing stuff for your clients. SCARF is about status, certainty, and autonomy, and retrospect and fairness. Now, status is really about your importance. So make sure when you design stuff in digital that you are giving people some awareness of how important they are. Ego is a really important thing. People want to know that they have some kind of status. The ability to predict the future. This is kind of usability, if you like, usability 101. If people cannot see the end to a task that you give them, if the end is blurry, the brain is not happy, the brain goes backwards. So help people predict the future by making it obvious. Sense of control. Everyone needs to feel control, right? The brain reacts really nicely when it feels like it's in control. So even giving people the perception that they're in control is a really positive thing. Now in the SCARF model, the R means something else. I've changed it in our model to retrospect. Retrospect is my favorite of all the brain recollection things. But retrospect is an incredibly powerful tool for people in digital, right? Retrospect makes lots of different areas of the brain wake up. So if I ask you how you're feeling right now,
Great.
Liar. Well, you probably, I'm joking. How were you feeling yesterday at 8 a.m.?
Great.
Exactly. Now the difference between what happened there is you were able to say right there, you had to stop and think, right? Retrospect, biologically speaking, what went on in your brain then was you weren't just thinking about how you felt yesterday, you thought about where you were, you thought probably about what you were wearing, you probably thought about, things that you're not even conscious of, like smells and things like that. So use retrospect as your tool. Make people think about what they were doing yesterday or the day before, the day before, the day before. Stop using language on your website like, how are you right now? Or good morning, John. Like, good morning, John's not cool because you're talking to them in the moment. Talk to them about how they were feeling yesterday. And perception of fair exchanges. In the middle of our, so SCARF is really the thing that you should be designing in mind. And then there's a bunch of tasks that you want to be designing into all your digital products, right? So Hippo likes to learn. So the Hippo is absolutely crazy about learning. Socratic questioning, get your copywriters to swat up on Socratic questioning, right? Socratic questioning is probably one of the most powerful copywriting tools that you can introduce. Socratic questioning is the thing that makes people stop and think and question. So never ever give your end user the answer. Get them to find the answer themselves. It's wicked. Challenges, so things that challenge people to get better. Gamification, if you want to call it like that. So game mechanics are really, really good. Connection, so social connecting to other people. So humans are social animals. If you can get people to connect to other people in digital, great, right? That's a good thing to do. We are social. The basic human condition is to connect to other people and a sense of belonging. People want to know that they're not doing things online or in an app in an isolated environment. The Hippo likes to have fun. Variety is really important. So your clients, your businesses, spice it up. You have to spice it up. If you are creating mundane, repetitive digital experiences, you are doing bad things. Spice it up. My daughter loves opening the fridge door. She's going to get very bored of that light going on and on. She's opening it every day because she thinks there's a different treat inside. That's why she's doing it, right? And so that's really important. And active involvement, so make people feel active in the task. This is the big one. This is the bit that we found, right? And this is like anti-digital. And this is the thing that makes quite a lot of our clients go, you're a digital company, why are you telling us to do this? To really activate the brain properly, to really make the brain and the hippocampus grow, you've got to get people offline. So you've got to stop them sitting in front of screens and use digital to get them offline, right? And so what we've done is we've started to build digital experiences for our clients and our customers and the universities and the hospitals that we're working with that basically encourage people to use digital to go offline. So challenges should take you exploring into the urban environment. There's a really amazing neuroscientist called Bo Lotto. You should go and look at his stuff. He has a very originally named company called Lotto Labs. He's got no ego at all, that man, but he basically creates augmented reality games that get people exploring using digital in like the real world. That kind of stuff is wicked. Social animals, forget this whole social networking online thing. Use digital to get people to meet in situations like this. So using digital to get you all here in this room together is the kind of social you should be doing, not sitting in front of Twitter like exchanging messages with people. That ain't social, that's digital, there's a difference. And so the term social media, I argue, is not social at all. It's anti-social media if it's anything. So get people meeting offline and active involvement. So again, this is kind of directly linked to offline. So what's really fascinating about our model, the reason that it's kind of different is we've been doing these things in isolation of each other for 10, 15 years in digital. We used to have clients that would make us do social campaigns. We used to have clients that used to do like content strategy with. We had clients that were having us build games. In all the agencies I've worked with, the nexus of the three is where the brain gets happy. You have to do it all. This is not like one like mutually exclusive thing. You have to get your experiences to wrap it all in, because reciprocity, which is a word I can never pronounce, it kind of leads you from one side of this model to the other. Readiness is what leads you from, learning something to sharing something, and reputation is that thing that really gets you from doing something and then sharing it with other people. It's a reciprocal model, right? And so if you go away and you start building with this stuff in mind, what you're going to start doing is growing the hippocampus. You're going to start reversing the effects of hippocampal atrophy. And the reverse of hippocampal atrophy will actually start to make people happy. And it will start to make people who are unhappy, even clinically unhappy, more happy. So we have a gift as designers and as a digital community to design in the right way and do the right thing. So let me leave you with this thought. Design has to be involving, has to be fun, has to be, and it has to exercise our social instincts, and in a non-linear way, right? And if you can go away, you can do all that, you're going to create very happy hippos. Thank you. Do you want to do questions? No?
Yeah, we'll do questions. If anybody wants to ask any questions, just fire away. I think we don't need microphones, we can just fire away on that.
Is there a correlation or a link of some sort between a depression and an unhappy hippo? In other words, if you make your hippo happy in these kind of ways, can that have a positive outcome for people with depression?
Yes. And so we've been working with Roehampton psychotherapy team on this as a therapeutic framework. So we're not going to go out and we're going to say, like doctors use this as therapy. That's not going to happen. Like depression is something that's, clinically, it just is. Like it happens to people. They don't really know what happens to people. Can you use this to start to distract people, make people happier, reverse the effects of hippocampal atrophy? Yes, it does. And that's why we've been doing it. And that's part of the reason I designed it. So it's this kind of my therapy framework. So this is, as designers, like just gonzo designing is probably the best thing in the world to do. Like, I'm so anti-speaking to the end user, like I'm always the end user. And so we designed this to make my hippocampus bigger. And so far it's been working. I'm quite happy. I have bad days, but no questions is good. Oh, I've got one more.
I noticed on the Tinder bit, you mentioned in real life at least 3 times, which is interesting because if you take it from a scientific point of view, from an academic point of view, you'd have a control group in a nightclub where you'd see the same behaviour. Do you have any sort of control data on that?
On the experiment we did, no, we didn't. No, this is just a voluntary experiment in Tinder. And so you're absolutely right, we don't have but again, the gonzo in me, the man that goes and used to, before I got married, stand in bars and behave, kind of never behaved in the same way. So yeah, no, I take that point. We didn't do a control group.
The follow-up to that is the in real life thing is an interesting choice of words these days. Like,
Yeah,
we
what
don't
is
really
real
have
life?
an in real life
Yeah.
comparison.
And actually, interestingly, back to your point about Tinder in real life, a lot of people are using those apps to pull in a room, so they're kind of like, they're using it in a real world scenario. I think what we've been looking at are the people that are basically sitting on their sofa, just like repetitively doing it. And so to our friend, if you're using stuff like Tinder in controlled bursts in bars to meet people, that's cool, because that kind of fits in with our philosophy about getting you offline and doing stuff offline. It's the people that are sitting at home and just doing stuff repetitively, that ain't good. Do you use Tinder? Good. Don't. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Pete. So we're just going to have a little break. We're going to try and